also, I think, affect or sort of assess or impact the relationship is how she is received here. Whether this becomes a media and political circus on her arrival or when she's here, but it will be how much we are seen to be, quote-unquote, milking this for whatever political or diplomatic leverage or advantage that we have. And I think that will somehow also condition the Saudi response.
So in that terms of how we might be milking this, what are you watching for?
There will be media attention when she arrives, and the question is how much we politically associate with this, how much of a political football she becomes. If we have the Prime Minister greeting her and the Minister greeting her in press conferences and all of that, and if she down the road, if she decides that that she would like to become the poster child for guardianship laws in Saudi Arabia and the need for human rights changes, that's up to her. But I don't think it would be in her interest for us to be sort of playing that game with her at this point.
But it's also, we know the United Nations, the UNHCR has a responsibility here, doesn't it? Because they often, when they place high-risk people who are high-profile, who have the kinds of threats that we know that she is facing, that they often put those people someplace where they don't tell anybody, where they try to protect where they are. Do you think that UNHCR has some responsibility to protect her here?
I'm really not sure. I think they would sort of hand them over to Canada, and then we have refugee and asylum seeker relocation services here in Canada. She would perhaps get some advice, and perhaps some other organizations will take her under their wing. But yes, I mean, there are some threats against her, I gather, on the internet, and whether those are idle threats or not, it remains to be seen.
The network of support women who have been helping her say that they're not only worried about her because her father is around and followed her over to Thailand, and he's a high-ranking government official trying to make contact with her, but because they also mentioned that she renounced Islam, which is a crime punishable by death in Saudi Arabia. How can she be protected? Because she has, according to many, she has violated the laws of Saudi Arabia.
No, that's right. That's right. And will have offended a number of very sort of the extremist elements, if you will, that are even here in Canada. So she's in a risky situation, particularly because of the profile, which is why I think it's even doubly important that we not try and use her as a poster child, try not to politically exploit her as governments or as Canadian organizations. Let her try. I think the best thing for her, as I said earlier, I think it's in her best interest to be able to sort of escape the limelight as quickly as possible, settle in, and then if down the road she decides she wants to become a political activist, that's her choice that she can make, taking into account all of the various security considerations that might be involved at that time. But it's best that she come here, she settles in, and gets out of the spotlight, both for her own mental health, likely, and also for her security.
Is it possible that her father could come here?
I would be surprised if he would get a visa to come here, to be perfectly honest, but you never know. I think because of security concerns and others, that they're getting a visa might be challenging. And
how will the Saudi officials here and the embassy, how will they be watching her closely?
Their narrative, insofar as they're saying anything, will be they will try and make this a consular case issue. They will say, listen, we have consular rights to access this woman. The narrative may be that Canada is preventing Saudi Arabia from exercising these consular rights and all of those sorts of things. Well, that's sort of a twist of the principle. I mean, yes, they have consular rights to access their citizens who are in detention, assuming that individual wants to meet with consular officials. It's down to the individual. So if she doesn't want to see them, she doesn't have to see them, and she won't be in detention anyway, I wouldn't think, at least not for very long.
And why would they want to have access to her?
To be able to relay, listen, what are you doing? Your father loves you, your brother loves you, you want to go back, it's safe, why are you doing this? All of those sorts of things.
Just finally on the Canadian question, what will you be watching in the next couple of days over the weekend as she arrives? If you see this press conference as you've described it, if you see her sitting with the Prime Minister or the Minister having this very thing that you're describing, what will you think?
If she's trotted out for a press conference and then, meeting with the Prime Minister, I'd be disappointed because, as I said, I don't think that's in her best interest. I don't think either from a mental health perspective or from a security perspective. And I think the best thing to do is to let her quietly integrate herself into Canadian life. What we've done, accepting her, is a good thing. Let it speak for itself.
Ambassador Horak, I really appreciate your insights. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you.
Hey, right over here.
Everyone, please. Okay, so please put up your hands up on Canada.
This way, you Rahaf.
Okay, I'll give the flowers to Rahaf. This is for Rahaf. Okay, so everyone, this is Rahaf al-Qunun, a very brave new Canadian. And Rahaf wanted Canadians to see that she's arrived at her new home, but she's had a very long and tiring journey, and so she would prefer not to take questions today. So please respect her. She's a very brave young woman who's been through a lot, and she is now going to go to her new home, and then I'll come out and say a few words.
Rahaf, can we just Rahaf, كلمة بالعربي. Rahaf, كلمة بالعربي.
Okay, guys, please be respectful of her. She's had a really long journey. Okay?
When are you coming back?
Thank you, Minister.
So it was a pleasure for me this morning to welcome to her new home a very brave new Canadian, Rahaf al-Qunun. She is obviously very tired after a long journey, and she preferred to go and get settled. I'd also like to, but she did, it was Rahaf's choice to come out and say hello to Canadians. She wanted Canadians to see that she's here, that she's well, and that she's very, very happy to be in her new home, although she did comment to me about the cold. I told her it does get warmer. I would also like to take this opportunity to really thank Canada's outstanding diplomats around the world, particularly our fantastic embassy in Thailand and our wonderful ambassador, Ms. Donika Kadi. She has done great work. I'd also like to thank the United Nations, UNHCR, and the government of Thailand, and I'm happy to answer a couple of questions.
Minister, what does this mean for the relationship with Saudi Arabia? What does this mean for Canada's relationship with Saudi Arabia?
Can you describe the last 48 hours where Canada was considering her request for asylum, and what reasons did Canada accept this?
So as the Prime Minister said yesterday, UNHCR, after speaking with Rahaf, after considering her situation, gave her refugee status. And then the task before UNHCR was to find asylum for her. UNHCR did feel that she was in a dangerous situation, and so UNHCR was looking very urgently for a place where she could find asylum. We were involved in those conversations, as were other countries, and Canada was glad that we were able to act quickly and to offer refuge to a refugee at the request of UNHCR, and to offer refuge to a person whose life was in danger.
Minister, what is your message for other women who are in a similar position as Rahaf, who can't get out, and who may not have the notoriety or the social media appeal that she had? Is the message here that Canada is prepared to take you in as well if you want a place to be free?
As the Prime Minister said yesterday, Canada believes very strongly in standing up for human rights around the world, and we believe very strongly that women's rights are human rights. That's something we believe in and act on here at home, and that's something we believe in acting on around the world as well. It is absolutely the case that there are many women, far, far too many women, who are in dangerous situations, both in Canada and around the world. For a single woman or girl to be in a dangerous situation is one too many. And it's also obvious that the oppression of women is not a problem that can be resolved in a day. But rather than cursing the darkness, we really believe, I believe, in lighting a single candle. And where we can save a single person, where we can save a single woman, that's a good thing to do. And I would like to also emphasize that this is part of a broader Canadian policy of supporting women and girls in Canada and around the world. And I also want to emphasize, we as Canadians should not be complacent. There are women and girls in Canada right this minute who are in dangerous situations, and we have a responsibility to them as well.